Hello, my name is Nicolas Cecere-Benedetti, and my conference video is on publishing decisions for individuals, small businesses, large companies as well, but mostly on that individual and small business side. Um, well, let's get started. So, there are a bunch of different options. There is Amazon RDS, which is the one we're going to focus on. It's also called, I believe, Amazon AWS. Um, but it's kind of the same thing. Um, the idea is a database, a cloud-based database that you can access through the website, um, and Amazon hosts their own servers which you connect to. It supports a bunch of different engines like MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, and a bunch of other stuff. There's also local physical servers, which is the old choice for most big companies and medium-sized companies as well. And most likely every company that had any data storage did local physical servers, if not just local hardware. Um, and then, of course, there's other web-based publishers such as Google Cloud. Those are the two big ones, but I'm going to choose to focus on Amazon RDS. So the reason I would not choose physical storage in this day and age is because there's just better options. The current cons of physical storage is that there's high upfront costs, so there's a high barrier of entry, where the initial money you'd have to spend on hardware, software licenses, infrastructure, and that's not even talking about hires like somebody who would actually focus on running the server and maintaining it. Then there's the maintenance and utility costs, such as power and not sure what else. Maybe the cleaners, maybe I don't know, the water or something. But either way, maintenance and utility costs. The possible single point of failure, which, as shown here at the bottom right, where you have a bunch of devices connecting to one single point in your entire network. And so if that point in the network goes down, and that point that acts as your bridge goes down, your entire network goes offline basically because you're stuck. And then it's very impractical for a lot of businesses, and we'll get into why that is in a bit later. But it's mostly those main points that we discussed earlier. So why AWS? I chose AWS not only because I have a little bit more experience with it. I haven't really worked with Google Cloud, but AWS is a trusted vendor. It is reliable, and it's got a simple payment model. With AWS, you know who you're working with, and about 30 to 40% of the current like business environments use AWS. It's reliable because ever since 2006, there have been estimated 20 region outages, which were all solved within about 10 hours. What that means is even if the service went down, as in one of the servers had, let's say it blew up. Let's say, I guess not blew up, but let's say it had, I don't know, it just suddenly lost power. And it would not be to the entire service. Like NA would not lose it. South Asia wouldn't lose it. North Asia, like it was region locked. So like let's say a specific part of the US suddenly lost service for a couple hours. The rest of the servers that are connected would have gone down. And then there's a simple payment method or model, which is just per hour billing, which is you use the software, you store all your stuff, and then however long you're running your database on their servers, sorry, they charge you for that. Apologies for that. AWS provides, another reason why I'd choose AWS is it provides a wide variety of services, and it's got a wide variety of resources, both from Amazon itself and outside on the internet from forums such as Stack Overflow. Um, they allow you to use EC2, VPC, S3, and RDS database systems, as well as a couple other things. I'm blanking the on the meanings for them right now, but that's not necessarily important. Just know they're all things that you could use. Um, and then the support is readily available. As you can see on the top right, they've got experts, they've got support centers, they've got documentation, they've got training, and they've got a bunch of different ways for you to learn how to use the Amazon RDS. As well as I said before, that large World Wide Web knowledge. Since about 30 to 40% of companies use this, so many experts are out there, especially in the computer science area of the world. Experts tend to really, really like sharing the information that they have. They love talking about what they know and how to help other people. For example, Python, Java, really any big software language or programming language has a wide variety of people who are extremely knowledgeable on the content and are able to answer specific questions that Amazon maybe not doesn't cover on their own. As for pricing, it's a very complicated issue. For small businesses and individuals, it can cost somewhere around 10 to 25, I believe, yearly or monthly. I'm blanking on that right now, but it's much, much cheaper than running physical hardware, where you'd have to pay thousands just to even start up a server, or you'd have to pay at least hundreds for a small piece of storage. Um, and so while that price is extremely low, it also assumes that you're using very little extra services that Amazon provides, like we were talking about earlier. Amazon has hundreds of different services that you can use. I don't believe that as an individual would necessarily need to use them anyways. So you could keep your costs fairly low just by not using those extra services. Now, the reason that it's very complicated is because normally you don't actually work with the Amazon RDS. You don't usually actually work with your storage provider or your publishing provider. And this is why. A lot of the times, companies, mostly small businesses, individuals, and even medium businesses, like medium-sized businesses, so not like your Fortune 500s or anything like that, you would tend to use a third party that would manage the software for you. One of the many examples that we could talk about is GoDaddy. They use website hosting services in order to basically make it easier for small businesses and individuals and just anybody in general to run a website on the World Wide Web. With part of GoDaddy's services, or what you pay them to do, is handle that RDS for you. You tell them what you want to publish, you give them the website, and they handle that backend for you. You don't even have to sign up with Amazon RDS to work with GoDaddy and have them put your website on their servers, assuming that they use Amazon RDS. They could be using Google Cloud Storage or any other publishing service. But let's assume they use Amazon RDS. You wouldn't have to know anything about Amazon RDS. You wouldn't have to hire anybody to talk to or work with Amazon RDS. You just give GoDaddy your website and you let them handle that, because that is part of their services. This is why it's extremely complicated talking about pricing, as well as just these decisions in general, because most of the time you're not going to be working directly with these websites or these services. You would let that third party handle it for you and mind your own business and focus on your own stuff. So that really brings us to the conclusion. Most of the time, I would say avoid local physical storage. It's just expensive. It's a pain to work with, and you'd have to bring a lot of focus just to understand how to work it. Assuming you're running servers and even some small databases locally. Of course, you can handle things on your own SSD or your own hard drives, but that's a topic for another day. And I would use AWS if I'm working independently, assuming there was no third party service like GoDaddy that I'd be using, and I had to work with Amazon RDS directly. I believe that there's so much to it that there's really not another option that I would go with. There's always Google Cloud, but for me, it's Amazon RDS. And finally, if I had the choice overall, I'd look for a third party service provider because it's just much, much easier. Um, and that's it. That's my presentation. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And thank you very much.